We're on, live. La donne mobile, cal più mal vento. Okay, you're wondering why I'm doing this. You know what? I'm wondering why I'm doing this. I'll tell you why. Because tonight we're celebrating food, we're celebrating Italy, and we're celebrating St. John with my guest, Elizabeth Rowe, who doesn't like to be called restaurateur, so that's exactly what I'm going to call you, restaurateur. You own or co-owned, is it co-own or own?
Co-own.
I don't want to upset anybody.
No.
I don't want to upset the apple cart.
No.
You co-own
Urban Deli.
Urban Deli and Italian by Night.
That's correct.
Not Deli by night and not Urban
by day.
By day.
No.
Okay, so you're from St. John. This is where you're located.
Yeah.
Are you from St. John originally?
Born and raised in Moncton.
Moncton?
Just down the highway.
Okay, so not far away.
Right.
And what brought you to St. John?
I drove over the Harbor Bridge and
fell in love.
Fell in love. That's exactly what happened.
Wow.
And it was that quick and that simple, and my trips became more frequent, and my walks, the radius got a little bigger, and it got a little bigger, and then all of a sudden I was selling my house in Fredericton and moved to St. John.
And how long have you been in St. John?
It has been probably, I would say, 10 years now. 10, 11 years now.
And have you always been in the restaurant business?
Yes, I have, I guess. I guess I could say I have. There might have been a short little period of time, a few years that I wasn't because I was in corporate. But other than that, I think my first job was at age 15, where I lied about my age to get the job at Tim Hortons on Mountain Road in Moncton.
The donut place.
The donut place.
I've heard of it.
Yes, I wish I had bought in on the shares back then.
You should have. You'd have tens of thousands of dollars.
It would be a different path. We'd be talking about donuts today.
Right. So now, okay, so let's start the first, well, it's not the first, I've already asked you a couple, but one of the important ones, because you didn't say that, how was my singing?
Your singing is spectacular.
Thank you.
If you have somebody that sings with you, you know, we have an opening on New Year's Eve.
Okay, now what do you mean by, you're saying I need support? I'm not good on my own?
You are, but you know, with that strong singing,
I need something,
yeah, you know, your vocal cords might get a little tired.
Right. Yeah, well, you know what, that's it. That's it for the year. That's all I do.
Well, thank you.
So now, yeah, and that was especially for you. I'm trying to woo you.
You did.
In the Italian way.
You did, absolutely.
Yeah. It was either that or a bottle of Valpolicella.
Right.
But we're not allowed to drink on live TV, so I thought I'd sing in its stead.
It's the better of the two.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, again, we are a live call-in show, and the question tonight that Patrick will post up is, what is your favorite restaurant in St. John? Hopefully you'll say Italian by Night or Urban Deli, and you can give us a call at 529-8826. I think I'm talking too fast, so I'm all excited, because we're talking about food.
Well, East Coasters, we tend to do that a little.
Talk too fast?
We do.
Okay, I'm going to slow down. And 855-529-8826 if it's long distance. Now, deli is what type of food? It's like deli food.
It is deli food. It's not your traditional, what you would think of in New York City or, let's say, Montreal in Canada. And by that I mean we have more sandwiches. We don't have the big brisket sandwiches, the pastrami sandwiches, and the mile-high sandwiches that they tend to make. Everything's from scratch at the deli.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of love goes in the making of the food, and our desserts are spectacular. The food is fresh, it's nice, and we specialize in sandwiches and soups.
Well, we have a mutual friend who I believe you're related to, who gave me a list of things that I should talk to you about, and one of them was how fresh everything you do is.
Right.
So it's and I know I've had lunch at the Urban Deli. I haven't been to Italian by Night, but that's on our list of restaurants to visit. But the food was spectacular at the Urban Deli.
Thank you.
And we sat at this big long table with other people.
Right, the communal table.
The communal table.
It's a beautiful table. And when I repatriated back to New Brunswick and moved to St. John, the mill that we bought our lumber from for the floor, because we did all the work in the deli ourselves, we touched everything, we built everything, not unlike the Italian, which we did all the work there as well. But at this mill, they had, I showed them a picture of this table that I had seen in New York when I was visiting my sister, gathering ideas for a deli. And it was a communal table. And I took a few pictures of it and I brought it back and I showed the gentleman that owned the mill. And he said, I have an old beam here and I'll see if somebody's interested, the gentleman wants to sell it. And so we bought that beam from him, and we had a German artisan fellow, Christoph Melanowski, gave that beam to him, and he worked his magic. And we have now a 14-foot table, 15-foot table that's made out of pitch pine, and it's 450-year-old wood, and it was a beam from the old sugar refinery shed shack.
Wow,
And
so lots of history to it.
A lot of history, and we're proud of it, and we love the table. And there's two schools of thought when customers come in, which was surprising, because some people come in and say, "Oh no, don't seat me with people I don't know."
Yeah.
And there's other people that said, "That's great, I want to sit at that table."
Okay, now I'm part of the first group.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why, because I don't like people at all. I'm not a people person, and I hate most people. And my wife and I went there, and that was the only spot that was available, was at this big long table. And I thought, oh, good Lord, I don't think I'll like that at all.
Did you make friends?
Well, no. Well, but we did end up getting involved in other conversations.
Perfect.
And honestly, it was a lot of fun. Now, I see, I went in there with a negative thought, because I'm an extreme, as Patrick and anyone who's been on the show will tell you, there's nobody more negative than I am. But once I got into it, it's actually really nice.
Yeah.
You don't, first of all, there is a privacy to it. You don't feel like you're with all these people, but if you want to kind of engage with them, you can.
Right.
And what I ended up doing was ordering something someone else had.
Because, yeah, you were sitting beside them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and they had, I guess, you have a corned beef or smoked meat sandwich with coleslaw and fries, which was wonderful. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to have that. So I was actually looking around the table.
See, and that's fantastic. And that table, and most of the time, it does what it's intended to do, which is to bring people together. And if you're sitting beside somebody that you don't know, and then one person just happens to lean over and say, what is it that you're eating? And then all of a sudden, a whole new conversation starts. And then all of a sudden, that radius of people gathering in on conversation just seems to explode a little bit. I've seen people exchange business cards, make plans to meet again. You know, people that have, you know, maybe looking for a job, and, you know, an opportunity came about, or somebody's third cousin is sitting 2 over from them. So it really works its magic.
And I remember we were sitting right beside 2 girls, and one of them was just moving to Toronto, which was more or less where we were from originally. So we got talking to her about that. So it is a really cool concept, and kudos to you for even doing anything like that, because I'm sure a lot of people would say, well, nobody would like that, but it is a fun, casual way to...
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
And when you go to larger cities like New York City or in Europe, they have these long tables that people don't think twice about sitting at. And you get engaged in your own conversations, so who cares what the person beside you is talking about, because I'm caring about more what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sure looking at the food you're ordering and looking for a reaction from you when I'm sitting at those tables. But even recently I had a visit to Montreal, and I went into a restaurant that had tables, and the tables were closer together than you and I are apart right now. And it was fine.
Yeah.
But I think it's based on population, what you're exposed to, what your experiences are, and how open you are. And sometimes when you don't like people, you learn to like them a little bit more as a result of sitting and sharing space together.
Yeah, and the other nice thing for me was that being with my wife, who I've been with a long time, as I was telling you, and honestly, I don't think she likes me or can stand talking to me. This gave her an opportunity to turn to the person beside her and engage with her rather than just waste her time with me.
Did you leave with your wife?
You know, that's a good question. Let me give her a quick call, make sure she's there. You know, I haven't seen her around lately, and that may have something to do with it. Now, Italian by Night,
Yes.
I don't know the whole history, but I believe it was located there as well. How did that? Oh, it was Italian by Night.
Right.
It was the urban deli, but Italian by night.
Right.
Thus the name.
It was deli.
I just figured that out all by myself now.
And so it wasn't any rocket science. We didn't hire a focus group or a marketing company to come up with a name. So originally, when the deli started, we were about 2 years into the deli. And I realized that there was a bit of a gap in the market, which was Italian food, authentic Tuscan-style Italian food. And after living in Toronto, Montreal, and out west, and visiting New York often, one of the things that I gravitated to was Italian food, and I loved it because of its simplicity and the fact that there was family-style sharing, and that you could share food with friends, break bread with friends, and really enjoy some great foods. And so I thought about it, and we looked for another location. We own the building we're in right now on King Street, and ultimately we just couldn't afford to start up a whole new business. And people kept saying, well, forget about it. And then one of my chefs sent me a video of a place in New York City, and it was basically a deli during the day and an Italian restaurant at night. Had 14 seats, and they transitioned, and they didn't take reservations. There's all these cool things about this place. So I watched the video. I immediately called the restaurant in New York City, and they wanted nothing to do with me. They were too busy to have a conversation. So I went to New York, and ironically, the day I was there, I think it was a Monday, they were closed and they weren't open, so I couldn't go and see it for myself. But I had my sister, Michael Ann, visit the location and share some of their concept and their ideas and their menu and some pictures. And fast forward a few weeks later, a few months later, and there was a lady that lived in St. John that I knew loved Italian food, had been to Italy many times, and I introduced myself to her. One day she was at the restaurant and said, I have an idea. I'd like to do an Italian restaurant. I'd like to have a conversation with you because I understand that you enjoy Italian food. You had a little kiosk at one point. You go to Italy often. And I just wanted to bounce some ideas off somebody who had the same love that I did. And so she agreed to meet. And so we did meet over a bottle of Valpolicella. And we must have talked for 4 or 5 hours. And I left her house, and I said, would you think about or consider coming to design some menus for me? And she said, I will think about it. And a few days later, she came to me and said, yes, I will design menus for you.
Wonderful.
And so she designed 5 menus: spring, summer, winter, fall, a dessert menu, all Italian. And then it was 2 days a week. I ran out my back door, ran down to her house, and we cooked 2 days a week for about 4 months, 3 or 4 months. And my toughest part was learning to read the recipe, because I'm the type of person when I cook, and I'm not sure if you are as well, I'll pull off a couple recipes off the internet, and then I'll just look at common ingredients, and then I'll say, what do I like?
You just know.
You just know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so reading a recipe through from top to bottom was the biggest challenge I had in learning how to cook and follow recipes the way that she was wanting to teach me.
Right.
And so then we cooked up at her farm for a weekend, and all her friends came up. A few of her girlfriends came up, and that was one of the tests of the food. And so she handed off the binders to me 4 or 5 months later and said, here you go. And I knew that the deli wasn't quite ready where it needed to be. And so I didn't want to rush things, because I was really passionate about the next step of where we were taking our business. And we didn't have a location, and we were still looking. And so I put those binders away, and I put them under my business partner, Gord. And hopefully we get to chat a little bit about him, because I love him to death. He's my work husband. I have 2 husbands, a work husband and another husband. And we put those binders underneath his desk for about a year. And after that year was up, I felt that the deli was in a good position, and then I had already aligned, we used to be open for breakfast, and originally we were open for nights. We shut all that down. We shut down the breakfast, shut down the nights, and wanted to just start to align ourselves for where we were heading for the future. And I approached Michelle again, the lady who designed the menus, and I said, would you consider coming on board and helping us roll this out, this concept? And she said she would think about it. And then she came back and said yes. And so she came in for a year and a half and worked with the team and helped develop those menus. So the name came up. So, okay, we're a deli by day, we're an Italian restaurant at night. And so that is essentially how the name came about. It was like, hey, we don't have time to come up with a name. That name will work. We are a deli by day, we're Italian by night. And then, 5 years later, after, what we would do is shut down the deli at 3 o'clock. Everybody would be gone at 4. The new team would come in, the atmosphere would change, from the lights to the music to the placemats to the settings to the menu to the staff. Everything would change in that environment for 4 hours. So from 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock when the kitchen closed. We did that for 5 years, and just loved the people that we served and had some success with it. So it was dynamite.
That is amazing. Now I'm going to have to cut you off here because we have a call.
Okay.
Who's our caller, Patrick? I can't hear anything. There we are.
Oh, am I on?
Michael Ann, are you there?
Wow.
How are you this evening?
You're interviewing someone very special tonight.
You mean me?
Yeah.
I hope that's who you mean. You know what? I have to be honest with you, Michael Ann. I have no guests this evening.
Yeah.
Nobody even bothered showing up. That sister of yours is, you know what? I'm never talking to her again.
I feel like you should have like one of those, kind of faux fireplaces in the background for the winter, like, and a little glass of wine
Well,
or
how
hot
do you know I
chocolate
don't?
with your guests. Because,
You don't know that I
you're
don't.
cozying up.
See,
And
now,
have these
I'll tell
in-depth
you,
conversations, and they're really great. I love your show, Rob.
Thank you. That's so sweet of you. You know, I was serenading your sister at the beginning of the show. She'll tell you all about it.
And you have a fabulous guest on tonight.
I
She knows
do.
nothing about the restaurant industry.
You know what? So far, it's been a fascinating show.
Yeah, and that's a great story. I just heard some of it about why Italian by Night, how it came to be, and there's a little bit more. There are a little bit more details, but it's great. What a great example of innovation and business sense, and just being smart about not pushing it too fast and furious and all that kind of stuff. And if you hear this lovely sound in the background, all your audience people, this is New York calling.
Yes,
And
the Big Apple. I can hear sirens. See, now this is exciting.
Yeah. And here you thought you got away with it.
Okay. Well, if you like that, it kind of is authentic.
Very much so. Now
just
you.
go above it. I'm going to have to do station identification. I interrupt this program with.
Now, Michael Ann, you're calling from New York.
Dear.
You're calling from New
Keep
York
talking.
City. You're calling from New York City. I think we're. Is everything okay there?
Oh my God. Okay, you didn't hear all that, did you?
I did.
I heard every word
Yeah,
of it.
so did everybody else.
Oh my
So,
God.
okay, now, Michael Ann, you're calling from New York City. Now, is this anything you've seen there before, where you've got two different restaurants in one? Because I think that's a very unique idea.
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
You know what? I'm only going to say this once. I'm not repeating myself.
Please.
You know how your sister had started with two styles of restaurant in one? Is that something you've seen in New York? I've never heard of that. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Well, it wasn't too far before, early before Liz did it, that it started here. People were utilizing their spaces. For example, cafe during the day, and let's do something else at nighttime. In particular, Brooklyn, I believe. I remember going to a space, and it was like they make this little transformation at nighttime, which is, to me, it's just brilliant. It's just a great way to utilize your space that otherwise you wouldn't get used in the same way. So, I mean, so it was happening a little bit in New York, and sure enough, Liz has come to New York to do a lot of homework for both of her restaurants. So I said, hey, this is doable. You got to come and see a couple of these places. This is what they're doing, and so yeah, it was a good example that it could be done. And I don't know the end story to those places, but certainly the plan worked to start small, not open that other door, and then make it into what it is today. So it's great.
Well, I think that what I find so interesting is that it's innovative, and then it was a springboard that allowed you to get to where you are today.
That's right.
Absolutely, because if it didn't work, it wouldn't be too much off of skin off your hands, off your whatever body.
Nose.
But it's just
Teeth?
like it's not. Yeah, you wouldn't have it like a full investment and a lease and all this stuff, and it's just a great way to test the waters. And certainly I think she might have said that they opened for a few days, and then it grew to a few more days, before you know it, you're open more than you thought you were going to be, which is a telltale. I mean, people wanted to come, and
So
the
Michael,
food was great.
Sorry to interrupt, Michael Ann, so the question tonight is, when you come to St. John, what's your favorite restaurant? So be careful how you answer that.
Without being biased, I'm so proud of Italian by Night and what Liz has done with both restaurants. But I like to go off the beaten path, so I really love just diving into going to the market and eating my way through the market because there's all kinds.
Yes.
There's all kinds of things under one roof.
Yeah.
So it's like I'll go there for my breakfast bagel. I'll go and get my dolts. I will go and get maybe a piece of meat from Dean's. I will go. I always support them with I go get some vegetables there. I love going around and talking to people and seeing how they're doing and see if there's anything new that popped up. And they have, on Saturdays they have an eclectic, assortment of food. And so I like the market a lot. That old market cannot ever go away. It's just a landmark and a place to be in St. John. But just perusing the streets, Tandi's also gives a nice eclectic flavor to St. John. And then I know there's a couple of new restaurants that are opening, so I'm anxious to see what's going to be happening with them. Billy's is certainly great for seafood, and I don't know too many of them that are on the waterfront. Unfortunately, I kind of just stick around the square.
Now, Michael Ann, I've got to take a quick break.
Okay.
And I think. I don't know. Patrick might let you stay on the line so you can listen to the show. Were you able to call toll free? I hope.
I couldn't call toll free from here, but it was no problem calling the other number.
Well, if you're calling long distance, I'll be honest with you, this show is not worth the money.
It's not every day you have someone like Liz Rowe on your show.
That's true. Yeah, I usually have. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for calling in, Michael Ann. Liz says you're coming in December, so hopefully you'll come and visit us.
Okay, yes,
Take care.
I will.
Thanks again.
December. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Don't get her started.
We're back. We just spoke with Elizabeth Rowe, who's my guest this evening, and we spoke with her sister, Michael Ann, and we were talking about your restaurant, Italian by Night, and the evolution, and now we'll go to part two, which is how you got to where you are today. But before I tell you that, you were talking about you have two work husbands.
I do.
And I'm sort of in the same position. I have my home wife and my work husband here, Patrick. So Patrick takes care of me. So I too have a work husband.
It works well, doesn't it?
It does.
It really does.
Yeah, why should we be left out there, out on our own? See, Patrick's right there behind camera one, and you know what? He's got that, he looks like he's ready to kill me. I don't know why, but I love him.
Not that it's going to affect his dating life at all.
No, I love him dearly. He's a good man. Takes care of me. Thank you, Patrick. No. Okay, so enough about us.
Right.
Let's get back to you. So now, again, I love the concept of what you did, but obviously it's getting so popular that...
Yes, it became popular, so fast forward 5 years. So originally we were open 3 days a week because I didn't know if people would even come. And with the complement of Michelle's recipes and her direction with the kitchen and the team there, and then having a strong front of house, we just evolved and we grew over 5 years. And then it came to a point that you're at that tipping point. It's like if we don't do something, then somebody else is going to do something. And we felt that we had built up a clientele, a respectful clientele, because without the customers, you're really nothing, right? And every time those customers walk through the door, they needed to be treated respectfully, and they're a big part of your organization. They pay our bills, basically. They pay, and all of our staff are trained, and we talk often with the staff during many of our meetings about how important the customer is to each of us. And without that customer walking through the door, your student loans don't get paid, your mortgage doesn't get paid, your rent and your dog food and your clothing on your back, none of those things get paid without the customer. So without treating those customers like gold, then you're nothing without them. So we worked hard to develop those relationships and to train our staff really well. and to raise the bar in the industry. I think it's really important, and you don't know that the bar has been raised until you start to go to other places and you start to hear things and see things to notice where your strengths are, or to see where your weaknesses are if you can take off the blinders. And one day we had worked with a local business developer and in St. John, and we were ready to move into a certain location in St. John. And then one day I was driving to work and I heard on CBC that Buston's Fine Furniture location was closing earlier than had anticipated. Well, I could not drive to work fast enough and get down that street, because for a year I would stand at the corner and I'd look at that location and I would dream that the windows were beautiful, the street view was beautiful, it just had so much curb appeal, and I could only dream that, you know, could this possibly happen? And I got on the phone and I called the gentleman who owned that building, who had bought the building, and who was also the landlord for the other building we were looking for. And I said, is there any way at all that we could possibly entertain the fact of looking at that space for a future restaurant as opposed to the other space? And he said, absolutely.
So perfect.
And it's like, okay, when's your calendar free? When can we come and visit? So we went and we sat with him and chatted, and it was doable. Everything was doable. The rent was doable. Everything was doable, except for we needed money.
Right.
Because a big project.
There's always that, isn't
money
there?
thing,
Yeah,
it
I hate that.
Know, if it was love and things like that, it would be a different story, right?
But you have to have the money.
Right, you have
it's
to
a
have the money.
business.
Yes, absolutely. So we got hard at crunching the numbers and determining what it was that we needed and projecting our sales, and did spreadsheets and looked at our business plan, and we knew it would work, and so we made everything happen. And then at that point, I think I was my husband, my real husband, not my work husband, was visiting Michelle and her husband up at her farm. She's got a beautiful farm up the river in St. John. And I was saying, oh, we're going to be growing our business. We're going to be moving out, and we're going to be going over to this new location. And before I left for the weekend, she said to me, would you like a partner? And I said, well, let me go talk to my work husband. And so I went to talk with the work husband, and it really was a nice fit for us. And so when you think about partnership, so, you know, sometimes people say 3 partners, it never works. 2 partners are nice, and doing it yourself is even better for some people. But that's not my school of thought, because there's so many transferable skills that each one of us had.
Yes.
And my business partner, Gord, you know, retired from TELUS, worked out west for many years and retired from TELUS, and he had phenomenal skills. And myself, I can't, you know, corporate, but I also had a strong background in sales and customer service in the hospitality, retail, and then finally I worked in sales and customer service.
And Tim Hortons, you
and
mentioned.
Tim Hortons is where it all started. That's, you know what? That's, them and McDonald's are the places that young kids need to go.
They always
do
say.
Phenomenal training, right? And there's great opportunities for companies like that. They have, you know, policies, manuals. They do great training for people, and they're experts at it. They've been doing it for a long time.
I had Chef Alex Hahn on, I think it was a couple of months ago.
I saw that. It was a great interview.
Thank you.
Very
and
talented man.
Oh, lovely man. Very, very talented. And he's coming on again next week. But we were talking about Anthony Bourdain. I don't know if you've read his book, Kitchen Confidential.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah, and it's a great book. And one of the things he talks about, he has a whole chapter about opening a restaurant, more or less saying that anybody that opens a restaurant has to be out of their minds.
Yes, I would agree.
But I also believe that one thing, and he's in his narrative, he's talking about a dentist who loves to cook, and he cooks for all of his friends and family, and they all say, you've got to open a restaurant. And I think that's the worst possible reason to open a restaurant. I think you do need a savvy business background.
Absolutely.
You need to know about customer service, because as you say, that's your, you know, pardon the pun, bread and butter.
It is, yeah.
And obviously, I think you coming from, as you say, corporate background, customer service, sales, you're going to have a little bit better chance of succeeding, and then blending that with partners who have different skill sets. Really a great idea.
It is a great recipe for success. And one of the, you know, because Gord does kind of the back of house, meaning not the kitchen side of things, but the administrative side. He does the shopping, he pays the bills, does the payroll, he does all those things that, you know, maybe I did years ago, and I can't be working on the business on that end of things. And Michelle does, and she's run her own business, and she's you know, very good with numbers and likes to make things balance out. And she runs a tight kitchen and develops all the recipes and the menus, trains her team. And when you go into that restaurant, it's so quiet in that kitchen. It's an open concept kitchen. And you don't hear anything. There's no yelling, there's no screaming, there's no nothing.
Swearing, and knife throwing, nothing like that.
Nothing, you know. So maybe that might not be exciting for some people, but for us, it's kind of nice. And so when you are feeding 240 people or 260 people through an evening, to have that calmness in a kitchen is outstanding. And then I take care of the front of the house, the training of the staff, the ordering, and the bar side of things, developing the bar menus, the drink menus, and deal with a lot of the customers, whether we're doing catering, whether it's in-house events and such. And so I do that side of things. So there's a bit of an overlap for us, a respectful overlap for us. And one of the big things is learning and understanding how each one of us communicate.
Yes.
And being able to communicate to each other. Gord and I over the years have learned to communicate, and I know when I upset him because the bottom lip gets really tight and there's a little bit of a silence, and so we've overcome that. That was our first couple of years with the deli, and because I can be a force to be reckoned with sometimes. I just plow through and I have this vision and I just want to go.
Sure.
And I have to remember that
type A personality.
Well, you have to be collaborative, right?
Yeah,
and the reason being is you get more out of it if you're more collaborative. So it's been wonderful.
That's fantastic. Now we're going to put aside all this business talk.
Okay.
Because honestly, although it's the absolute thing you need, who cares about it?
Right.
Let's talk about the food.
Okay.
Because that's what excites me.
Okay. Perfect.
And I've been although we haven't eaten there, but we will very soon. Because even just talking about it, I'm getting excited.
Perfect.
But we did. You and I met there a little bit ago.
Right.
And it's a beautiful place. What a great,
really
great spot you've got. And what you've done with it is fabulous. But now, let's talk about food. I'm coming there tomorrow night with my wife, the two of us.
Right.
What should I order as an appetizer? Where should I start? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, lucky us that you're coming for dinner.
I'm
holding you to this.
Yeah.
Now, we have a couple options for you when you're coming for dinner. One is if you're tired of making decisions all day and you just want to come in and relax, your server can take those decisions away from you. And also by finding out what your allergies or dislikes, or maybe you're vegetarian or vegan or you're celiac. So we take all those things and we ask those questions up front. And so if you were to come in, we have three sections to our menu. We have the antipasti, the primi, which is your pasta, actually 4 sections. We have pizza. And then we also have the secondi, which is your main meat, your protein dish.
Yes.
And so if you were starting with an appetizer, if it was just you and your wife, I might recommend the affettati board, which is our charcuterie board with imported meats from Italy.
Beautiful.
And
prosciutto and salami.
That's exactly what it is. And then
I'm getting excited already.
Some cheese, and then there's homemade, we do homemade preserves on there as well, and then there's homemade breads on there. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful sharing board. If that's not where you want it to lean, then our salad, on this particular menu, the beet salad is absolutely delicious. So I would recommend sharing of a salad, and then I would recommend whether it's the calamari, which is absolutely delicious. Now we have a new dish on this menu, which I love, and it's called fritto misto, and it is it's the polenta, the deep fried polenta. And many people go, oh, I don't like polenta. I don't like polenta. And you put that down without telling them.
Now, who doesn't like polenta?
Many people.
Oh
my goodness. I don't know. And then we also do the polenta, and we also do the risotto balls. So it's your
arancini.
Yes, the arancini. And it's absolutely delicious. So that's a nice little starter plate. So you get a nice balance of your greens and your vegetables, and then you get a little bit of deep fried goodness. And but it's fresh food. Everything that we make is from scratch, and it's fresh. We don't open up the cans, and there's no preservative additives. We do import tomatoes, and the tomatoes have one ingredient. It's tomatoes. That's it. And all our sauces are from scratch. The pizza dough that we make beautiful pizzas, and we just put a new pizza. So if you're having pizza, we have a Bianco pizza on the menu, and it has a white sauce. It has potato on it. It has pancetta and fried sage, and then it has an egg right in the middle.
Wow!
And it's absolutely delicious.
I got to write that down. What's that called again? Is it like Bianco pizza?
Bianco, yes.
Oh man!
So that you know, that is fantastic, and you know, there's just the pastas are outstanding, and we have pastas that we make from scratch, and then we have some beautiful fresh dried imported pastas from Italy. So everything that we bring in, it's from Italy. That we bring in, so it's not, you know, it's not from the local grocery.
Right.
Our produce and stuff we buy locally. We try to buy locally where it makes sense and where we can get the products that we want. And our menu kind of travels with the seasons. So if it's, you know, if it's summer or winter, like, so we're going into the braising season. So we have the lamb shank on there. We have our short ribs that are braised. They're delicious.
Braising. I love, you know what? I'm telling you, Elizabeth, I'm convinced that the best meat is braised.
It is.
I love, it's not me, right?
No.
I've almost, you know, don't repeat this, but I could almost give up a steak now for something really well braised.
Nicely braised.
Just melts in your mouth. Oh, okay, sorry, you're getting me. You know what, we should talk about something else. I'm getting kind of excited here.
Dessert is another one too, right? So we have beautiful desserts, everything's that we have a pastry chef, a young pastry chef, and she's fantastic. And her desserts, the presentation on them are phenomenal. We have many people that are taking pictures of the plates because we put our little brand, we have a stencil stuff. Oh, isn't that cute?
Yes, and I'm one of those guys.
So I think the secret to everything and about great food and about us serving the food, and the staff are proud to serve the food. The kitchen is proud to prepare and plate the food, and the customers enjoy the food. So it really is. It's we really love what it is that we're doing, and I think
it's passion. It's all about the passion.
It really is about passion, and I think no matter what kitchen you go to, if it's somebody's home or another restaurant, and you know, one of the great things about the restaurant scene in St. John is, somebody had asked me once about, you know, what makes a successful restaurant in St. John, and there's many mom and pop restaurants, husband and wives, partners that are working the restaurants. There's not a lot of chains in St. John. And I think the success comes from the owners being present and being there on site, and they have the love for what they're doing, and they have the love for their staff, and they take care of their staff. And I hope they take care of their staff, I'm assuming.
We'll assume, yeah.
We love our staff, and they're great, and we empower them to make decisions and when we're not there, and if a customer isn't satisfied, because we resign ourselves to the fact that we're not going to make 100% of the people happy. And I think once you let that go and realize you're not going to make 100% of the people happy, you know, our target's more around the 96, 97% that we try to make happy. And we work hard at doing that. Our staff work hard at doing that, and we love our staff for doing that for us as well.
Well, I think, you know, you mentioned the chain restaurants, and we moved to New Brunswick last year, and we came from an area that was, I don't know if this is a proper word, heavily chained.
Yes.
Meaning that there were a lot of them. And I guess there's a consistency that's kind of fun, and it's great for a Friday night. But when that becomes your entire spectrum of places to eat, it becomes a real drag.
Right.
And coming to New Brunswick and seeing just so many new, novel, farm-to-table places, fresh, wonderful foods, and St. John is just really, and Fredericton. I haven't really ventured much out to Moncton, although we did eat once there in an Italian place, and it's just great. Yeah. And you can't rely totally on chain restaurants.
Right.
You have, because there's something is lost there.
Right. I think there's a place for everything.
Yeah.
There's a balance, and it's you know, and they create a lot of job opportunities and create employment for people. So we're thankful for that. But I think with the owners present type restaurants, that you're keeping your finger on the pulse on everything. You're watching the front door, you're watching the kitchen, you're seeing how things are plated, you're bending down, picking up that piece of paper, and the people that work for you know that you care as much about the place as you possibly can, because that is your livelihood. That's, you know, you've put the risk in to make this happen, and they see it, they feel it, and they love it, because you're setting them up for success. We train them, we invest in them, we care about them. You know, they're part of our family as well.
Well, that you know, you're going out. You're not cooking at home, so there is an experience between yourself and your server.
Right.
that is very important. There's a, you know, as funny as it seems, but I believe that there's a bond that you form with them, even for just a half hour, or an hour, or 2 hours, or an evening.
Absolutely.
You've got to be able to connect with them, and you do rely on them for help and assistance and a little bit of guidance if necessary.
Well, in our industry, a good server, a good bartender, or somebody that works in the industry should be able to read that customer in probably the first 3 to 5 seconds, and be able to get an idea of what that client expects from you as far as service goes. So do they want the silent server? Do they want the server that's engaging? Do they want the server to make decisions? Do they want the server, you know, do they demand a lot of attention? Or are they the client that likes to sit there and don't worry about me right now, I'll see you in, you know, 20 minutes or so?
Now, what kind of customer do you think I am? You size me up in 3 seconds. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. See, I'm making you nervous now. Go ahead. What do you think?
I think that I think your expectations would be high, but you would also judge the place as soon as you walked in the door and manage your own expectations.
And just walk out if necessary.
No, you would manage your own expectations.
You know what? I'm not that. I'm really not. I'm not like that at all. I'm very easygoing, as my wife will tell you, and. No, I'm not. You know what? I love a good experience.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I'm the type of guy, if I go there and I love the food, I'm just
happy.
Yeah. And I want to talk to a chef, and I want to talk to you, the owner, and I want to talk to everybody.
And you're the customer we want to talk to.
Yes.
That they all want to talk to because you're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And honestly, I think I do a little bit of research ahead of time. So I rarely go into a place and I'm not happy.
Right.
I could say very few. You know, I know where I'll go and I won't like it, so I just don't bother going there.
Right.
But I'd say, you know, most places we go in and we always have a great time, and I love it. And it is important to me, and I think most people, to have a great experience. It's not just about the food. The food obviously is a huge part of it, but it's that whole experience.
It is the whole experience, and it's a bundle of things, right? From the time you walk, it's your food, atmosphere, and service. It's everything, and because that customer retention, having you come back or leave and wanted to talk about us or any other restaurant and share your experience with them. We can't pay for that kind of advertising, right? And so it's fantastic, and we really appreciate it. And I know the restaurateurs in St. John really appreciate it. It's a tight-knit community, and people know each other. They support one another. If we're full or we can't take your reservations, we'll send you. We'll say, here's a spot, and we know that they're great, and we can get this.
Yeah, and that's wonderful.
Competition is good, and we never fear competition. We embrace it, and we want people to succeed because we know how difficult the industry is.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing, and I think that you will, you know, get people to come back. You know, if you're full and you say, no, go here, I would really appreciate that and think, geez, that's great. I remember years ago we were in a town, I won't say where, but, and we were looking for a place to stay, and there were a lot of places were booked, and I'd go to the front desk and I'd say, well, can you recommend somewhere? No. You know, like afraid that if they, you know, I can't stay here, obviously you're booked.
Right. But
what harm is it going to do to say, unless they're told, which I don't think is a, you know, I mean, we are human beings in a community.
Yeah, you should always embrace other places, never knock the competition, and we're very firm about that with our staff, that it's better to say nothing than it is to say something negative.
Absolutely.
And so we really, truly support other places.
Good, and we're going to take another quick break. You're on with Rob, Patry Live, and Elizabeth Rowe. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're talking with Elizabeth Rowe from the Urban Deli, an Italian by night. You know what? I hope you're not sad that we're ignoring the Urban Deli.
No, not at all. Oh,
It's
my
not
goodness.
that I'm not.
Oh, no,
and,
no.
we can go back and forth.
No,
I'm just
no.
all excited about Italian.
Oh,
'cause
me
I love
too.
Italian
I love
food.
the Italian restaurant.
It's so exciting. But like I said, see, I haven't eaten there.
Yeah.
For all I know, it couldn't. Maybe it's not that good.
It's 4,000
And
square
you know-
feet of deliciousness.
Now, I know it is. Now, we just, on break, we were talking about, you were saying sometimes people bring food in. And I was thinking, how would you feel if I got a sandwich at the Urban Deli and brought it in? You wouldn't say anything, would you?
Well, this is a delicate topic with a lot of people. So what's happened over the years?
You know what? I'm sorry to bring it
No.
up because you know what? You gave me that look like you wanted to kill me when I brought that up. So you know what? That's
No, I don't want to throw a
dopey-
sandwich at you.
That's
No.
a dopey thing to bring up.
No.
One of those big beef boys.
Uptown Big Beef Bad Boys.
Yeah, see, I can't remember. I should have written that down. No, there's something we can go back to the deli because you won some award or was on TV or they
You
did
got to
like
eat here.
you got an
Yeah.
award.
Yeah, you got to eat here. So they did our restaurant, they did the St. John Ale House, and they did Taco Pico. So we were all blessed to have had that opportunity for them to come and film us. You can't
Right.
pay for that advertising. And they also, I think they did a few places in Moncton, Catch-22, and Tide and Bore. So it was a great opportunity for all small business
So they
owners.
come in and they tried this big bad beef boy
Something like that. That's the other
meat
sandwich.
guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's in it? Tell me what's in it. Tell me all about the sandwich because I love a good sandwich. Who
Well,
does
it's again simple. So we have a smoker on site, so we smoke our own meat. We use
I didn't know
applewood.
that.
Yeah, we use applewood
Did I?
at
Maybe
the
I
deli,
did.
and so we take our roast beef and we inject it. We play doctor for a moment, so we inject the roast beef, and then we do a dry rub, our own dry rub, and then we smoke the beef, take it out of the smoker. Let it cool, and then we slice it, and then we add pepperoncinis, cheese, and then we have a couple sauces that we put on it, and
Wow.
it's just,
That sounds good.
it really is. The beef gets dipped in the au jus, and then it's just layers of deliciousness, and it's just, again, it's real simple, but it's just the combination of flavors that are fantastic, and I think we're more known for our meatloaf sandwich, and as a kid, I grew up on meatloaf, and we created a meatloaf sandwich. And people, after 7 years, they may stray for one day and try something
But they
new.
always come back.
They always come back. I'm like, there's more to life than the meatloaf sandwich, but that's all they want is
want.
the meatloaf sandwich.
No, because it's a comfort food.
It
We all
is.
grew up with it, and probably very few people probably make it
That's
anymore.
right.
Hey, can I tell you my beef injector story?
Yes,
or
please.
Not beef,
Oh,
but
yeah.
injector.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I heard about these years ago, so I went out and it looks like a big needle, like a syringe with a
Right.
needle. And I knew you could buy something pre-mixed and fill it up in the little, like a flavored stuff. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do all that. I'll make my own. I'll call it a marinade.
Right.
Is that fair
Yeah,
enough?
absolutely.
And I melted some butter and I added some herbs and spices and garlic and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the herbs, what I found out later was a mistake. They were dried
And why
herbs.
was that, Rob?
Well, what happened was, as I pressed down on this thing, the herbs plugged up at the little holes.
They sure did.
So what I did, I pressed harder and harder, and with all my strength, and the thing just exploded all over the kitchen, like everywhere. My wife, Arlene, as I like to call her, my long-suffering wife, wasn't around. So I cleaned up, if there was 100 square feet of mess, I cleaned up like a little bit. So I didn't say anything, which is my way.
Right.
And a little bit later, she's around. She says, "What's up with all this? There's like greasy, buttery mess everywhere." And I looked at her and said, "I don't know what it is." That's my story.
I've heard that kind of response before.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, well, I wasn't me. I didn't do it. I
yes.
had nothing to do with it. So anyway, I ended up throwing this thing away, and I never used it again.
You only do that once, won't you?
Yeah, the once and that's it. But this thing sounds amazing.
It is delicious. And we do our turkey the same way. We smoke turkey, we inject it, and we smoke it as well. And we do our pork butt in the smoker, and I think there's a few other restaurants that smoke their own pork as well.
Okay.
And there's just some great ways to keep things simple and to be able to mass produce the food because we're a busy sandwich place.
See, now I'm thinking I got to revisit the Urban Deli.
I think you should, and I'll take you on a food tour.
Okay, sounds good. Now, here's a question for you. When you go out to eat,
Right.
where do you like to go? And it could be as simple or as...
Well, there's great restaurants in St. John. So here's my I guess my sin meal is I have Bob's Burgers on speed dial, and when I drive home, I call Bob's Burgers and I get a plain burger, and I pull in, I run in, I get it, it's all ready when I get there, and I eat it on the way home.
Now, where's Bob's Burger? I don't even know.
It's on the west side in St. John. Now, in the absence of my sin food, which is my little burger when I drive home, there's so many great places. So forgive me if I haven't mentioned many of them, but coming to mind, East Coast Bistro is fantastic. The two owners there are young owners. They moved back to, I think she's from New Brunswick, and he moved with her. They're married. They have a couple kids. They work very hard. They have a great spot. It used to be the old Opera Bistro. And Tondi's, Kenny and Holly own Tondi's. They're great community people. They give lots. They worked really hard. You know, they started with nothing. Both their stories are phenomenal stories of their beginnings and where they are today. They're very successful restaurant owners. I love going to them as well. Who else? We have the Boardwalk, which is the Ale House. Lemongrass, the owners of Lemongrass are fantastic, and the owner of the Ale House, smart as a whip, very much a businessman. And, you know, Vito's has been around for a long, long time. I don't eat there as often as I could, but we do go out to the Valley, which means Quispam Sis, and the cousins and the family, they work very hard for their success. And again, they're so entrenched in their community and with hockey and supporting junior hockey, and they also do the annual jazz festival out there, which is super. So there's more than just the food that makes it. It's the people that run it that make you want to go there, because it's the conversations that you have, because you have common conversations, right? And you're in a like industry, so you can share a lot of the same stories, right? And you know, down the hill, Picaroon's just opened up down the hill, and it's great. And Yuck Yuck's opened up downstairs from us, which is fantastic. So people come in for dinner, they go downstairs. Rogue Coffee just opened up, and they're a very progressive coffee shop. And there's just so many wonderful. There's so many nice places.
I had Sean Dunbar on the show. A little while ago with Lisa Aronson. She's a chef and owner of Five Kings in St. Stephen. Right. And we had a lot of fun chatting with them. And when she was making in the kitchen brownies, she had served at Flavors, where I met Michael Ann. Okay. See, everything is a full circle. It is a full circle. Now, when you're eating at home, what's your comfort food? Like you said, the hamburger. What about at home?
Oh, at home.
Are you like craft dinner? Or, no.
I grew up on that, so I try to stay away. I stay away from it only because
Campbell's cream of mushroom soup?
No. You know, we grew up not poor, but you know, there's poor people, and so yeah, we grew up on macaroni and craft
what
cheese
do you
and macaroni.
Like now?
And so now, if I'm cooking at home, I like to do kind of family style eating. And so putting out just small plates of food, and that's snacking is what I like to do.
Yeah.
That's my big
just
thing.
Little bits at a time all day long.
Yeah.
Eating everything.
And I just love vegetables are probably one of my favorite things to cook and to eat. Yeah.
Now, do you like Asian food? I love Asian food. Isn't that great?
Love.
Is there a dim sum place in St. John?
Oh, please, somebody open up a dim sum place.
There is none.
There used to be, and Sampan used to have dim sum, and they're on the west side, and they no longer have it. Now, rumor has it that there may be a place opening up in Milledgeville. I don't know that to be true.
Maybe I should open a place. I don't know anything about, well, I know a little bit about making it, but I have one of those little carts.
Those carts are phenomenal.
I have a cart, and I have a couple of bamboo baskets.
That'll work.
But that's the thing I miss. Coming from
I agree.
Southern Ontario, you know, every Sunday, if you want to, you go for some dim sum.
Dim sum is one of the big things I miss. Faux soup. I mean, we have a couple faux soup places in town. But the dim sum was one of the big things.
So you and I should become partners and open up
dim sum.
A dim sum place.
Yeah. Or maybe just by us talking about it.
Somebody will get the...
Right.
But you know what? Once again, I'll get no credit.
I'll give you credit.
Really?
I will give you the credit. I'll say, remember the day that Rob mentioned that?
All right.
That's why it came to fruition.
Hargau shumai. Oh, I love that stuff. You know, I used to even, you could get it frozen.
Yeah, you still can.
Here you can?
In St. John you can. There's a little market on, what is it? It's not Union, it's Waterloo and Union.
Right.
And it's right up from a Japanese restaurant, which is, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Fantastic. There's a couple Japanese restaurants, one right in the uptown called En Sushi.
Okay.
And then there's one on King Street and then another one over in Waterloo. But you can buy the green onion cakes and the shrimp, everything. You can buy it all there.
I made the rice things once.
Did you?
You know the little sticky rice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought...
and the banana leaf?
Lotus.
Yeah,
Is it
lotus leaf or banana leaf?
Lotus, and
Yeah.
I bought, they're huge, and then soaked, oh, it was a whole procedure, but it was actually quite good. Well, you know what? I think we're out of time. Are we out of time, Patrick? You know what? I talked and talked through.
It was fantastic.
Did I cut you off too many times?
No, not at all.
Was I rude?
I was reading your mind.
Were you?
Yeah, I was.
There's not a lot up
Yes,
there.
I feel blessed.
You do?
I do.
That's nice. You're very sweet. Girl, I'm going to call you a girl.
Okay.
You're a young girl. Thank you. Very sweet. And you know what? I could be your TV husband.
There we go. Everything comes in threes.
See? There
Yes.
you go. Thank you, Elizabeth Rowe. Italian by Night, Urban Deli. Check it out next time you're in St. John. A lot of really, really, really good restaurants in St. John. Get out there, explore, find out some new places. Don't go to the same place. Enjoy your food. You're watching Patry Live. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye.